The worst way to learn in business is actually from your own mistakes. And the best way to learn is from other people's mistakes so you never have to make them yourself. And after working with hundreds of software dev agencies, I found the exact same mistakes that separate the ones that are growing month over month from the ones that are stuck in the same feast and famine cycles year after year. And it always comes down to the same 5 ones. And in this video, I'm breaking down all 5 of them so you know exactly what to avoid and what to do instead. So let's get right into it. All right, so let's start with the first mistake that I see far too often with too many software dev agencies, and that is selling everything to everyone. Now, the beautiful thing about being a software dev agency is that you can do so many different things, right? You can do custom web apps, right? You can do web development, right? You can also do custom solutions. And there's all these different things that you can offer to different clients, and that's great. But the issue is when you start to try to market the fact that you can do custom web apps, web development, custom solutions, all these different intricacies, these are only going to work on referrals and warm traffic, right? Because no one wakes up one day, especially cold traffic, they don't wake up one day thinking, oh wow, I really need a custom solution for my business. And so what you have to understand is that in order to really scale your business beyond warm traffic, right? Because there's 2 types of traffic that are going to be important for growing your business, and that is warm traffic and cold traffic. And in order to scale your software dev agency beyond a certain point, you need to tap into cold traffic, which is people who don't know you, that are strangers that you're either reaching out to, you're running ads for, that are getting into your ecosystem and they're buying something from you. But the issue is you can't sell to cold traffic if you just sell one of these things or you sell multiple of these things all at once. You have to develop what's called a front end offer. And so without an offer, you will never be able to sell to cold traffic. That's the issue. And the 2 offers that I've always seen work for software dev agencies is either productizing a service, which I go to in depth on some other of my videos, or doing a diagnostic sale and offering something of value for free. So I'll explain what both of those mean in a second. So if I wanted to productize a service, what that means is I would then pick a custom solution that I do a lot of and that is very popular within a specific industry. So for example, let's say I target the manufacturing space. Let's say that I help them with streamlining their supplier onboarding, right? So that's a super peculiar example that I just thought of. But anyways, let's say that they have a really in-depth onboarding for every single new supplier that they partner with that takes a whole bunch of manual processes to go through. And what you do is you actually streamline that process. Now, let's say you've done this for a couple of different companies. Well, now you have a specific solution that you can go out to market in that specific industry. So then you can create a front end offer of it. So you can say, hey, we help you streamline your supplier onboarding process in 30 days. And if you're not satisfied with what we do, you get your money back. Something along the lines of an actual front end offer that you can then go sell to cold traffic. So do you see the difference? I'm no longer saying, hey, I can do custom web apps, web development, and custom solutions for everybody. You're now picking a specific lane. You're productizing a service offering. So it's much easier for you to get your foot into the door and to actually garner attention. The second thing is a diagnostic sale. So what you could do is run some form of audit or assessment, or, I wouldn't even say consult because that's just overused, but workshop, right? Something that basically allows you to go inside of an organization and say, hey, we're going to run a technology assessment or a AI workshop or something along the lines of an AI audit, something that allows you to get your foot into the door to see exactly where a custom solution might be the best fit for them or how they could be leveraging AI within their business. So you're going to be having different conversations with them based upon a certain use case that would actually help them. These work great to build trust and to also sell multiple different offerings. You don't have to productize your service if you want to still keep it, very custom to the companies that you work with. So that's the mistake number 1 that I see far too often, right? So that's exactly how you get over it. All right. Now the second mistake that I see way too often with software dev agencies is relying on referrals, organic marketing, and third-party websites. Now, the reason why this is an issue is that this creates a lot of unpredictability, because the issue with these types of lead sources is you cannot control them. There is no control. And when there's no control, it's very hard for you to predict growth. It's very hard for you to plan hires. And it's also what leads you to having bloated staff, because I'm sure you've all experienced this before, where you have staff members that you brought on board for certain projects that are now sitting idle because that project is finished. And now you're just paying people to to sit there. And so when you don't have any control over your actual acquisition channels, you're going to end up wasting so much money in bloated staff. It's also going to be harder for you to predict growth, to plan hires, and really to get you out of the day-to-day grind of running a software dev agency. And so what you have to start thinking is, how can I develop acquisition channels that I can control the inputs with? So there's really two acquisition channels that you can control the inputs with that I recommend that you figure out, and that is either outbound or paid ads. Now, what you do with paid ads or outbound is you take that offer from step number one that you've created, and you then do a lot of volume on these channels. So the beautiful thing is, what you can do once you figure out exactly your numbers is you know exactly how much you need to put in order to get a booked meeting, in order to get a closed deal out. So outbound channels that I recommend are going to be cold calls and cold email. And honestly, I believe cold calls are a great way to get your feet wet in getting meetings on the board, and also developing your sales skill as a founder, or even as a sales leader, that you can then be able to documentize and standardize across the business. Now, for paid ads, I always will recommend Meta. Only time I'll ever not recommend Meta is if you want to run LinkedIn for like Fortune 1000 or Fortune 500 companies. If you're going after like big companies, that's where LinkedIn will only be the play that I recommend. So those are the two channels that you have to understand, because then once you figure that out, you'll be able to figure out your cost per lead, and then what's your cost per call. And once you figure that out, then it's just a numbers game, because you can figure out, okay, it took me 200 dials to get one book call, or it took me $200 to get one book call, right? And this will then give you a baseline that allows you to predict your growth and allows you to control your growth, most importantly. So I always believe that if you do have funding, you want to put some money into marketing, I think paid ads is the fastest way to grow, and it's going to allow you to have the quickest scale. Outbound, a little bit slower. You can still do it, but it's not as scalable, but it still gives you that predictability nonetheless that you can rely upon. That is mistake number 2. Hey, real quick, if you're looking for help with growing your software dev agency, you want someone to just handle it completely done for you in terms of the marketing and the sales, there's a link below to book a call with me. I'm happy to talk about how we might be able to help. Anyways, back to the video. Alrighty, so mistake number 3 that I see happening far too often is hiring a sales rep too early. Now, the issue with this, it kind of leads into my last point, but I'll build on top of it, is that if you do not have a predictable way to generate leads, you are not ready for a sales rep. Because the issue is that a lot of software dev agencies think that sales reps are going to give them lead gen, right? They think that they're going to produce leads for them, where more times than not, a sales rep that's really good and that's capable of producing lead gen opportunities isn't going to most likely want to come to your company. So therefore, you're most likely going to be hiring sales reps that are expecting you to feed them with leads. And if you don't have leads that are already coming in for them to capitalize on, it's going to be much harder, first of all, to attract higher talent, because not everybody wants to sit and just cold call all day. And the second thing is that having a sales rep is going to turn into an expense, because ideally, your sales rep should be making you more money than you're paying them every single month. And the issue is, if they're sitting idle, or they don't have leads and they're not working leads, or they don't really have a good cold calling process, or you don't have a process in place for them to follow for the cold calls, then you are just literally paying someone, an 8 to 10 grand a month, if they're a good sales rep, to just sit around and you're not making your return on your investment there. So, and a lot of times when this happens, it can really then just turn off founders from ever hiring a sales rep, because you just didn't have success with it. When most of the time it's because they didn't build the proper foundation beforehand. So what you're going to want to make sure is, before you actually hire a sales rep, is you have a well-documented sales process that they can plug into, right? You don't want them to have to figure this out themselves, because that's also going to be very challenging for them. And the first thing is, you want to make sure that you have, leads coming in through a channel that is one of those predictable channels, like I mentioned, right? Either the cold email, cold calls, or obviously you can also use cold DMs too, but cold email, cold call, or paid ads, right? That's the moment that you can hire a sales rep, because you can feed them. You can actually fill their calendar, so that you're not just hiring an expense, you're having something that's actually making you a return on your investment. Okay, so that is mistake number 3. Now, mistake number 4 is giving up on marketing. I see this far too often for software dev agencies. They develop this really negative mindset after something goes wrong, or they invest into something, or they work with an agency, or they try cold email, or they try cold calling, and they just give up. They just think that they are not able to do it, that it's not going to work for them. It doesn't work for their specific service. It doesn't work for their company. And they develop these beliefs and these mindsets mindsets around marketing that stunt their growth. So you have to ask yourself, what beliefs am I currently holding about marketing that could potentially be holding me back? Because really, there is software dev agencies out there that marketing works for, right? So you have to remember that as you're marketing yourself, that other people are cracking it, right? You're not this special one that it just doesn't work for. So you have to continue to tweak, continue to iterate, try different things, and also stick to things, right? A lot of times what I see is someone will try something for a month and they'll just throw their hands up and they'll say it doesn't work for me. So you have to give things 3 to 6 months sometimes to actually flesh out so you can see the fruits of your labor as opposed to giving up on something in the first month of trying it. So you want to really make sure that you have the mindset that marketing does work for you. You're just one campaign away. You're just one ad away. You're just one thing away every single time from getting a predictable system within your business. And you have to remember that, because if you give up on marketing, I can guarantee you one thing: you will always stay stuck in feast or famine sales cycles. It is very hard to break past certain revenue ceilings if you just continue to rely upon referrals, your network, third-party websites. Those are just never going to give you that predictability that really allows you to scale your business. So you have to invest into marketing and cracking marketing for your business. Now, the last mistake that I see all the time with software dev agencies is they have no sales process. This one is a neat one because this is a problem actually a lot of people don't think that they have until I actually uncover it with them. Is when you're used to selling warm traffic, like I talked about, mistake number 1, you don't need a sales process. It is very easy to sell warm traffic. And that's what a lot of people mistake. When a lead is coming to you for something and they've either been referred or they found you somewhere, they opted in, or they found you from your network, it is way easier to close that lead so you can get away with things that you would not be able to get away with on cold traffic. And so what you need to understand when you're selling to cold traffic, and even when you want to hire a sales rep, you need to build a sales process. And that is not just some fancy proposal template that you send out to every single prospect. It's actually thinking through each part of your buyer's journey and what exactly you want to do at each stage. So for example, you're going to want to have a discovery call or some type of, assessment as a first call where you actually understand their needs, their use case. You understand why they want to do something right now, why it's important for them to do something. And you build the proposal from this call itself, right? You want to make sure that everything they're using is from their own language. And then from there, you want to bring back a proposal that shows them the ROI on your solution. So that's the biggest thing. You want to always sell to ROI and sell to the cost of inaction of not doing anything. And so a lot of times what people will do, and I've seen this probably across like multiple software dev agencies at this point, is they'll actually send through a proposal. And that is the absolute worst thing that you can do as a sales rep and as a founder, is sending through a proposal. Yes, you will get away with it on warm traffic. Yes, it's fine. You could still close. You could still close deals with it. That doesn't mean it's optimal. And so what you want to make sure that you're doing is, if you are having a sales call, especially on cold traffic, is you're booking a meeting from a meeting. It's called BAM FAM. And after every single meeting, you're booking the next meeting. And specifically on a proposal call, you want to walk through the proposal with them live. You want to show them the ROI. You want to understand if they see the value. You want to uncover objections on that call. And that's how you really start building out a sales process, because then you can start documenting all the objections you've gotten. Then you can start figuring out reframes and different talk tracks that you can use at each part of the process that's going to help you continue to close more. And you also want to make sure that in between calls, when you book calls, you're sending over case studies, you're sharing with them testimonials, you're giving them value, you're giving them assets that they can consume. So these are all different parts of a process that you need within your business in terms of the especially cold sales process that's going to allow you to, first of all, like I said, plug a rep in way easier, because you know what's way easier than hiring a sales rep and having them try to figure it out themselves and just say, giving them a pat on the back and say good luck, is you actually have something that's working. You're like, hey, our current sales process with me in it, we're closing at 35%. So then you have something that you can hold them accountable to as well. It's like, okay, well, if they're not closing beneath that and you've given them the training, you've given them everything, well, then it's a person problem and you're going to need a new sales rep. But you also have a standard for what actually good looks like in the business. So that is the last mistake that I see too many founders make. Don't be one of them. So those are the 5 biggest mistakes I see software dev agencies make over and over again. Trying to sell everything to everyone, relying entirely on referrals and third-party sites, hiring a salesperson before the system is even built, giving up on marketing when it doesn't work immediately, and going into sales calls without a real process. If you avoid these 5 things, you're going to be way ahead of most people in the space. And if you want our team to come in and build a full client acquisition system that fixes all of these 5 things for you, there's a link below to book a call with me. Anyways, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take it easy. Ciao.